Good evening. I'm Ken Hardy. I'm the publisher of the Daily Journal. First, I'd like to welcome everyone to the first ever Fergus Falls Journal NABUR Town Hall meeting. NABUR stands for Neighborhood Alliance of Better Understanding and Respect. The purpose of NABUR is to create a place where readers within the Lakes area can ask questions, share what's going on in their neighborhoods, and communicate with each other. Our goal is to be able to have civil conversations between neighbors about things that matter to them. Tonight's discussion is regarding economic development. Fergus Falls Managing Editor Heather Kantrud is leading the discussion this evening, so I will turn it over to her now.
Thank you, Ken. As Ken mentioned, tonight we are discussing economic development. We have with us a panel of 3 local professionals in order to discuss the topics of business climate in Fergus Falls and the workforce shortage that is currently happening nationwide. Our panelists tonight are Lisa Workman, President of the Fergus Falls Chamber of Commerce, NeTia Bauman, Managing Director of Greater Fergus Falls, and Greg Wagner, Director of Business and Economic Development for West Central Initiative. We will start tonight by discussing business climate. The first question that we have for our panelists tonight is this: do we have new businesses planning to open in the Fergus Falls area soon? NeTia, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely, I would love to. Thank you. So, Lisa, I would actually ask you to follow, just because we've been talking about this expansive list of businesses that the chamber has been tracking. But I'll start off with what I do know in our 3 years of operation here in Fergus Falls. We have established a wide variety of resources and programming to grow our economy. And one of those components is our Entrepreneur Initiative, which is a free and confidential startup coaching, general business development, technical assistance program. Through that program, in the last 3 years, we've worked with 45 new startups, representing different industries, levels of job creation, and different impacts to the community. So specifically, a few of those would be Rustic Rough Dog Grooming, The Creation Shop, Balance Gymnastics, and Extreme Water Jetting. Each, again, represents a different industry with unique impacts to our economy. The number of new businesses, I think, that we've had, especially over the last 18 months, is quite impressive for a community of our size. So that, in addition to several of the new businesses, I know that Zen's just shared publicly yesterday about the opening of their future steak and seafood restaurant, which we're all really excited about. That will be opening here soon. There are several others that have opened and expanded downtown and elsewhere throughout the community. We have Toast. I'll talk a little bit about more that one a little bit later, but that's a really great opportunity as in terms of a co-op kitchen that really fosters the growth of new restaurant entrepreneurs in the community. But there are several others that are slated to open here soon, but we can't talk about them publicly yet. So I would just offer that Lisa, as I mentioned previously, she's been working on a list and tracking new businesses since 2014. And so what is that? Are we up to like 170 new businesses since 2014? I think that's pretty awesome, but I think Lisa is better positioned to speak to that history.
Sure. Thanks, NeTia. So that's one of the great things that I think folks should know is that the partnership and the collaboration that Greater Fergus Falls has with the Fergus Falls Chamber, where Greater Fergus Falls is really geared with working with entrepreneurs and getting them started as new businesses or as new products or new services, whatever, whether it's a startup or whether it's starting a new business. And then we kind of do a little handoff when it's time to open and during the first few years, where the chamber then works hand in hand with those businesses to help them grow their business use the resources of the chamber. And yes, we have been keeping a list. We started it in 2014 based on a discussion or that, was popping up in Facebook that, people say, oh, there's nothing new in town. And I'm like, I beg to differ. We hand out a lot of first dollars, and we have businesses coming into the chamber looking for resources on a very regular basis. And NeTia is right. The business list started in 2014. And we've had over 170 businesses since then. In fact, I try to keep a 5-year running list of new businesses, and we've got 158 new businesses that have already opened in Fergus Falls just in the last 5 years. And I know I'm missing a few too. So I usually ask people, let us know on Facebook or send us an email or share with us if you've opened a new business, because I think that's one thing that is good for a small community is the opening of new businesses, and then we can support them and do business with them. But yeah, we literally have at times run out of the plaque size that we need to hand out first dollars for new businesses. So we've got a long list yet to distribute those, and that's a great problem to have.
Absolutely. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Heather. NeTia and Lisa both covered, what's going on in Fergus Falls very well, so I won't talk to that too much more. But what West Central Initiative does is we have a regional territory or a regional service area of 9 counties. And what's happening in Fergus Falls, or what's happening across the region, I should say, is very much benefiting in Fergus Falls as well. At the height of the pandemic, I think it caused a lot of people to do a lot of reflection and contemplation of where they are in their lives and if they're happy with their current job. And what we're seeing is a real huge increase in entrepreneurism and kind of folks deciding to kind of make that dream a reality and step into their own launch of a business. And so we are definitely seeing the spirit of entrepreneurism continue. And I think you're going to see a lot of new shingles hanging up outside of storefronts in Fergus, just like they are throughout the 9-county service area of West Central Minnesota.
Wonderful. Okay. Moving along to the next question that we have, Greg, we'll just kick it off with you since you're gone right now here. Do you happen to know why some of the new businesses that have announced, potential grand opening dates were delayed on their initial opening dates?
There's usually a lot of contributing factors going on in the background. I think, most recently the pandemic is weighing in on things quite a bit, both as it relates to supply chain. A lot of new businesses require some extensive renovations, and when you can't get the circuit breakers or the plumbing fixtures, that's going to delay the project opening. And I think too, the workforce challenges are felt all across all industries, and I would say especially the construction industry. And so fewer crews to work on those renovation projects is going to kind of move timelines down the road. But it's great to see that with like companion animal hospital. And there's the picture there, the groundbreaking, which West Central Initiative was really pleased to help out with some gap financing on. I know that they had put some pictures on Facebook that the building is, I think the lights are on literally. So soon to be opening. And I know I see the Comstock crew out at the former Sunmart building. With Wayne Enterprises. So I think those are kind of the supply chain and workforce challenges have resulted in a lot of the delays recently.
Absolutely. NeTia, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think Greg covered it well. Obviously, I think most people are aware that there are several supply chain disruptions, increased costs of materials, and skilled labor shortages. All of that has been contributing to slower start times, I think, for many of these businesses. But, I can't speak for all of the businesses, of course, but in terms of the Sunmart redevelopment, they've actually never been postponed or delayed in their opening. They're still on track to open or have occupancy yet this fall. And there are currently 2 confirmed businesses that will be occupying the space very soon here. And we continue to field interest from both local and non-local businesses that are interested in that space. So we're really excited for them and what that district will look like. Zen's Steak and Seafood that we talked about a little earlier, they've certainly been slowed primarily by material and labor shortages as well. But they're nearing the finish line. They put up their sign yesterday, actually. And so hopefully we'll have a grand opening for them here in the next month or so. And I would just add that the restaurant industry, obviously everyone knows they've been particularly hard hit these last 18 months. So the fact that we've had such immense interest with restaurant startups in our community is just really indicative of how strong our local economy really is. So those happen to be one of the most requested startups here. We get the most number of inquiries for restaurants, and it happens to be one of the most challenging businesses to start just because of the cost of commercial kitchens, the licensing, the workforce requirements needed, to operate day to day. So we are just really grateful for the number of new restaurants that we have interested in our community.
Wonderful. Lisa, would you like to weigh in on the delays in business openings?
Sure. Just the comments I would add is, a lot of times, there's so much work that is done prior to a business opening. I'm sure NeTia can attest to that, as they're, from the concept of a business to, business plans to working out the financial arrangements. There is so much work that is done that the general public simply doesn't see. And as any person who's following their dreams and starting a business, sometimes they want to get that sign or get that information out there as quick as possible. They're super excited, and then their timeline changes. And I think, as residents and community members, we might be, a little let down by, I wish they'd hurry up and open. But, believe you me, that business owner wants to get it open as quick as possible too. And, I think the best thing that the community can do is to continue to support these businesses as they're new and as they're opening, and to continue to do business with them, not just in the first week or the first month that they're open, but to continue to support and do business, go to the restaurants, shop at the stores, do those things so that we can continue as a community to open new businesses where we're an attractive place for people to come, where they, people, when they're looking at Fergus Falls, whether they're looking at opening a new business or whether they're looking at moving to our community with their business or bringing a new business, they want to know that the community that's here, that Otter Tail County, and even, as Greg mentioned, that whole West Central region will support them once they're here. So that's critically important. So if folks want to see more new businesses open, we need to continue to do business here in Fergus Falls, do business in your hometown, your backyard, put away your mouse, and we're clicking by, walking by, calling by, whatever it is. So that's what I would add. And like you said, the slowdowns, it's supplies and it's workforce related. And I know every trade, every crew, every plumber, electrician, carpenter, drywaller, painter, sign hanger, they are as busy as they can be. So there's some great job opportunities that are available for that. We want to see things happen faster, get involved in some of those high demand careers like the trades, and that should move things along a little bit faster, hopefully.
Absolutely. Lisa, what successes have you seen in filling some of the former vacancies, like the Sunmart building that we talked about just a little bit ago?
I think one of the things that I see is that, we're looking at like Companion Animal Hospital, the groundbreaking picture, and the fact that their construction is getting done. I think as businesses grow, they tend to literally outgrow their space that they're in, and they'll move on and they may build. There's, a multitude of construction projects. Some have broken ground and are starting to build. And then what happens then is that'll open up a space for another business to move into. And I know Greater Fergus Falls has been very busy working with clients on commercial space. A lot of times they've outgrown the space. They want to move into a bigger space. Do we build? Do we rent? Do we lease? What should we do? And we're seeing people expanding quite rapidly or building, new facilities. Creative Handmade Goods is a great example on that. They just celebrated their first anniversary. They opened, a retail store that supports other small businesses. They opened downtown in the middle of the pandemic, and they're already expanding their business. So, kudos to them for taking the leap and to the community for going and shopping. And boy, if you haven't been downtown Fergus Falls to Creative Handmade Goods, get down there this week. This is the perfect week to be downtown and, visiting so many of the new stores that have opened. We had Dandelion and Burdock opened during a pandemic too. So, there's a lot of places that I think people haven't been, or they haven't been very often. And I think that's the best way that we can show success to them, is to be supportive of them. So like I said, head downtown. The weather has been beautiful. Park at the chamber office. We got plenty of parking here. We've got a little construction going on across the river, but that's a good thing too.
Absolutely. You mentioned working with NeTia. NeTia, would you like to touch on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think there's many reasons why we've been successful, more so in the last few years, with filling vacancies, not just downtown, but throughout the community. When Greater Fergus Falls was first established, we intended to streamline business development, remove barriers, be an accessible resource to attract new and support our existing businesses. And part of that is strengthening existing partnerships and building that network of resources throughout our region and state. So if we can't support someone directly, we likely are connected to someone who can support them, or they can solve the problem at hand. So I think that the collaborative partnerships that we've collectively strengthened in the community, whether it be the city government, the Chamber of Commerce, West Central Initiative, all of those resources together, I think have really been a critical component of our economic growth downtown and otherwise. But on top of that, I firmly at least believe that shifting the narrative of our community has positively impacted the vacancy rates downtown. You pair that with heightened awareness of all of our resources collectively, and that has improved confidence across the board and spurred both local and non-local investment in our community. So we've had people, like Uncle Eddie's, Dandelion and Burdock was mentioned, but Uncle Eddie's is another one too that opened up during the pandemic. We've had Otter Cove, the children's museum, and that is an incredibly valuable asset to our community that also attracts tourists. When tourists come to town, they stop at these stores, they spend money here. So I think, it's just kind of the snowball effect. We had several people, in fact, most of them that want to start businesses in Fergus, if it's going to be brick and mortar, they say we want to be downtown right now, because that's really where everything is at. They want to be close to that foot traffic. They want to just be a part of that community. And so when we have one of them, it spurs interest. People that have said, well, I've always wanted to open my own business, but I didn't think I could. Now they have, a one-stop shop. They have this wider network, with the Chamber and West Central, all of these other organizations that are there to support them, not just to start up, but through the lifespan of their business, to make sure that they remain sustainable.
Yeah, wonderful. Greg, would you like to chime in on this discussion?
Sure. So Fergus Falls, among many fantastic assets, the downtown, the historic downtown of Fergus Falls is a huge asset to the community. And it just, there is kind of this reinvigorated fire going on. And I think, combined with some gutsy entrepreneurs opening up in a pandemic, filling some spaces, like NeTia mentioned, Otter Cove, creating amenities and draw to bring people downtown for numerous reasons is going to create a diverse and vibrant downtown. And, into the future with the riverfront project, when that is done, oh, wow, that is going to be an amazing amenity and draw for people to this community. And, I want to also, shifting the narrative too, with, putting a positive spin on things. Some vacancies in a community in downtown buildings are not bad, because that creates opportunity and growth for new entrepreneurs and new businesses. If you have everything completely filled up all the time, you might lose out on some of those the new opportunities. So it's kind of just the natural ebb and flow of a main street or any community is we need to have some vacancies. You don't want to have all your housing filled up, and you don't want to have all your storefronts. But we've seen a lot of homegrown redevelopment with the Target building getting repurposed to providing a new childcare and early childhood education and school district services. The Shopco building with Wayne Enterprises and the Cornerstone Cabinets and the other tenants that are going to go in there. The Balance Gymnastics / Vector Windows warehouse in the Shopco. So really, we have the Kmart, and there's a mall that needs some work, but it is not just a Fergus Falls issue with vacancies and kind of this big box changeover and communities going away from big boxes. It's a national adjustment or trend in how retail is done, and it's shifting. So that's just a little bit of my food for thought.
Sure. NeTia, how do you think that a mandated vaccination or mask mandate, once again, if that were to go into effect, would affect the businesses and the business climate in Fergus Falls?
I mean, I think they've been there, they've done that. This would be the second time around for them, so they know what to expect, I think. I think naturally there may be some loss of revenue, maybe some additional issues with, workforce. But I think across the board, at least in our community, people know, the small business owners, they're not going to let them struggle. They're not going to not go shop in their store because of a mask. Not generally. I don't think that that's true of the majority of the population. So I think, although no one wants that, if it were to happen, I think our local economy, our small business owners would, they'd maintain through that.
Sure. Lisa, what do you think about the possibility of another mask or a vaccination mandate?
I guess one thing is our business owners are going to do whatever it takes to stay in business. They are resilient, they're resourceful, and our community members really stepped up when there were closures, buying gift cards, getting restaurant food to go. We'll just do it all over again if that's what it takes. We just know that the more people invest and spend and, support and, show their love through their purchases to our local businesses, the more that they can create a better community for all of us. So we just, as residents and as businesses, we just need to find ways to make it work. And to know that it is important. I mean, it is critically important, I call, they use the A word. Don't do click and buy. Just stop yourself, call up service food or Fergus Home and Hardware. You know, if you're looking for something specific, that's the beauty of a locally owned business, is that you can call them, they'll deliver, they'll order it for you, they'll drop it off. I know the flour mill right now, because the parking lot is tore up behind them, they're like, we'll bring them out to your car, just pull up close to our building, let us know you're here, and we'll bring your flowers or your plants out to you. That is beauty. The beauty of the small business is that they'll figure things out, they'll make it work. And we've got a great city and a great county that is helping them do those things, where, you know, you can call the city and say, hey, can we reserve this parking spot for to-go orders? You know, the city worked really hard in getting picnic tables out for the restaurants when it was outdoor dining. So it takes all of the organizations and the people in the community together to make this happen. And whatever the issue is, we're going to work through it together. We're going to, you know, support each other, lift each other up, and, you know, just make it happen. Like I said, I just really want to stress that it's so important to keep supporting the local businesses. You know, like I said, they're going to make local decisions. It's not like you can call, you know, a Target and say, hey, can you get this item for me? No, but you could call, say, Victor Lundin Company. Oh yeah, sure, we can order that book for you. Yeah, we'll meet you at the back door. You know, so that's where I think is we're fortunate in a smaller community that there are local decisions that the businesses can make, and they take care of customers.
All right. Greg, how do you think that a mask mandate or a vaccination requirement would impact our community?
Well, if we learned anything through this pandemic, it's how to be flexible. And NeTia and Lisa covered it well. I mean, we adjusted through evolutions and twists and turns for 18 months, and this is just some new things to figure out and navigate and be flexible on. And I think our business community is well positioned to, you know, be flexible again and making it work.
Absolutely. Greg, earlier you had mentioned the workforce shortage that we're facing nationally. How has that affected our community?
Well, I think it's evident in lots of store windows and lots of sides of businesses that with the now hiring, or, you know, looking in the Daily Journal's help wanted section, you know, there's lots of positions. We're seeing sadly some business closures because of inability to find folks to work. I'll guess, you know, from a regional perspective, looking at where we're at, we've had a workforce shortage long before COVID and the pandemic. That's the alarm bells have been ringing for years and years that there's something going on, and we're going to be facing more challenges with workforce. You can blame COVID for some of it, for accelerating it. Definitely, you know, we're probably having more people launch into entrepreneurship, and so they're starting their own businesses and they're not really an employee anymore. We're seeing more retirements. You know, I haven't seen lately, but the stock market kind of historically is going gangbusters. So people's retirement accounts are pretty flush, and they might be moving into retirement a little quicker. We have, you know, just fewer people that are, you know, able to work kind of for kind of those three factors. One of the things that kind of gets thrown out a lot is we look at the unemployment rate for kind of gauging how our workforce is. And we've been doing some recent analysis on, you know, where unemployment stands. And this applies, you know, to the region, to Fergus, to Otter Tail County. Really, unemployment for this area right now, if you look at August of 2021, which is the most current data, is the same percent that it was back in August of 2019. So really the unemployment rate and people out of work, and, you know, yes, there's probably case by case where people were getting the pandemic assistance and choosing not to work. I'm sure, the people can argue that they know somebody, and there are somebodies, but the numbers are showing that we're really at the same unemployment rate that we were, well long before the pandemic. So it's more about labor force participation, which counts the people that are not employed and that are working, and the not employed, getting unemployment. So our labor force participation rate is one of the best in the nation as a state, but that's kind of the secret to understanding where our workforce really aligns.
Sure. NeTia, how have you noticed our community in relation to the workforce shortage and the relationship there?
Yeah, well, I think anecdotally and statistically speaking, we know that there is, in fact, not just a workforce shortage, but as Greg mentioned, there are stark differences between the unemployment rates and the labor force participation rate, rather. So, why is that for Fergus Falls? It's not just Fergus Falls; it's many communities in greater Minnesota. We have different demographics and economics than metro areas. Generally in greater Minnesota, we have an older workforce. So as Greg mentioned, they're retiring early. We also have some out migration of youth. People always graduate and want to go to the big city, right? You don't generally graduate and then go to a smaller community, or a more rural one. So we're combating that. But I think compared to other communities, I did pull some data before this, and one community that is comparably sized to us is Brainerd. So if you take a look at their unemployment rates at both the peak of pandemic job loss and as recent as August, the most recent data, our unemployment rates are significantly lower. So in May of 2020, Brainerd sat at 15% unemployment, while we topped off at 6.8%. In August, Brainerd was back down to 4.2, which is great, and ours is back down to 3.1, which, as Greg indicated, is at pre-pandemic levels. So in terms of unemployment, we're back to normal, I would say. But it's that labor force participation rate, the people that are just no longer in the workforce for a variety of reasons. We know that here, and again, not exclusive to Fergus Falls, it's a statewide, it's a national issue. There's childcare shortages. There's, mandates and different flexibility issues with schooling now. So parents, or at least one parent, it just might make more sense for them to stay home and school their child or care for their child. So they've not re-entered the workforce yet. But as Greg did indicate, our labor force participation rate for Otter Tail County is at 82.4. That's phenomenal. Statewide, we're 84.1, and I think nationally, the last one I saw was like 61.7. So we are doing far better than we are nationally, and generally, data will tell us that that levels will return. People will come back to work. It just takes a few years. The longer the period of recovery lasts, the more time it takes generally for us to return to those labor force participation rates. So we just have to, I think, get creative, not just locally, but draw resources regionally to help our employers get creative with both attraction and retention of the existing workforce that we do have.
Okay, Lisa, how have you noticed our unemployment rates? I know NeTia mentioned Brainerd, but do you have any sort of data about some of the other surrounding communities or the effects on our community?
Yeah. So through our network of chambers, so we belong to the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce Executives Group, which is chambers from across the state of Minnesota, and recently had our fall conference. And the workforce shortage is a challenge that we're all facing across the state of Minnesota. And again, I've got a group of chambers that I connect with on a national level, and it's about in every community where it's a workforce shortage. And as Greg mentioned, this has been going on for years, and we've known about it, and there have been ups and downs in the economy where it's not as noticeable. But I remember back in 2007, some of the first discussions at West Central Initiative and the Labor Force Development Council were, we need to prepare for the silver tsunami. All the baby boomers are going to be retiring, and then the economy, contracts some, and those baby boomers that were going to be retiring stayed in the workforce a little bit longer while the stock market recovered. And as he mentioned, the baby boomers are back. They're in the workforce, but now the economy is booming and the stock market is booming. So they're exiting. So we've been riding a little bit of a wave. Again, our ups and downs, where most of the, I guess, larger metro areas and bigger areas are deeper dives and, higher highs. In an agricultural based community like we have in the Fergus Falls area, Otter Tail County, West Central Minnesota, our ups and downs are a little bit smaller, but they're still, we still feel it especially in the workforce. So again, baby boomers retiring, younger people not entering the workforce as such an early age. When you think about how busy students are from the age of 16 until they're out of college, they've got activities, they've got sports, they've got clubs, they've got church, they've got youth groups, all kinds of different things. Not all of them are getting jobs right away when they're, of legal working age, when they're turned 16 years old. And so we have less people going into the workforce from the age standpoint, baby boomers retiring on the other end, and a lot of people making other decisions about their lifestyle, work-life balance in the middle. And that's, really we've hit all those things in the past. We've seen it escalated over the past couple months. And I think one of the things that we're now seeing when it comes to workforce is employers are being more and more flexible when it comes to recruiting workers, more flexible as well as more, trying to create that whole total package, whether it's a higher hourly rate, better benefits, maybe a flexible starting time, flexible hours, trying to really accommodate those things. It's truly a juggling match, but the businesses are saying, we're going to have to do whatever it takes to keep growing. And I guess that would be the third or fourth, or I'm not keeping track, A, B, C, whatever it is. One of the other reasons that we're seeing that workforce shortage is that our economy is strong. Our economy is booming. And so businesses are growing and they need more people, so it's like, what do we do? So they're, again, trying to do everything. So it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. I don't know. I don't have an answer. But we're, like I said, we try to do what we can. As NeTia mentioned, when it comes to, okay, if we're not able to attract enough employees, how do we retain the employees that we have? And so, NeTia and I right now, between the Chamber and Greater Fergus Falls, we're going to be hosting, a workforce workshop in November. There are some classes that are available through M-State on leadership. So maybe it's a business needs to skill up some of the employees that they have. It's kind of like when you look at the commercial or the retail space, where it's like, okay, you've got businesses growing and moving on to the next level. Think of employees at the same way, where they've come in as entry level. Now we're skilling them up to the next level, making room for someone else to come along and grow in their careers. So yeah, workforce is an issue. It's a common conversation. I think all of us on the panel here would have that conversation with the businesses that we work with and the nonprofits that we work with, that workforce is a challenge, and it's just going to take every little positive step that you can make to help resolve those issues.
Wonderful. Greg, Would you like to comment on some of the factors in addition to our booming economy that are maybe causing some of this workforce shortage?
Other factors, sure. We touched on some retirements, the younger adults or teenagers not entering the workforce, with busy schedules, increased retirements. I think part of it too is we're not quite familiar, we as in the business economy, with quite this shift in it's a employee kind of, they hold the power. The employees or the potential employees hold the power, and so I think a contributing factor or a solution to some of it is how an employer sells themselves as an organization that someone should come and work for. What's your company culture? It's more than just hanging a sign outside the door saying we'll pay $14 an hour, or even the hiring bonuses. I think that's kind of a new trend that we're seeing is work with us for 6 weeks and we'll give you $200. I think increasing wages and just if you can't increase wages, which is that is a challenging aspect of being an employer, is compensating your employees, is how what other options or opportunities you offer as part of that. Flexible hours, working remotely if you can, opportunities for advancement, some benefits, some maybe college tuition assistance, things like that. So that kind of spun around your contributing factor, but I think it's it's what's your value proposition as an employer to attract that workforce is also a big factor. People can be fussy now, and so that's a need.
Certainly. NeTia, would you like to round out the discussion regarding the workforce shortage?
Sure. I guess I would just say overall, I think that we would all agree we're in the midst of a major cultural shift. As both Greg and Lisa referenced, the employers are no longer in the driver's seat. Employees are requesting and demanding more flexibility. They are learning to adjust their work-life balance, and they're realizing that they don't necessarily need to work 80 hours a week or even 60 hours a week. Some of them don't even need to necessarily work a general full-time 40-hour a week. So that it's not always about those high wages either. So that's where, whether an employer can or can't offer those higher wages, sometimes, for some individuals, that's not what matters to them. Maybe it is a childcare slot, a paid one. Maybe it's a childcare savings account, or not even just tuition reimbursement, but tuition loan repayment in general. So I think there are a lot of different factors to consider, and employers cannot deploy a one-size-fits-all solution because, as Greg mentioned, everyone has a different value proposition, right? What is more significant to me may be not as significant to Lisa. So I think we have to just adjust and continue being resilient and work with all of our employers, as we continue to grow and adapt and face these challenges.
Absolutely. Thank you all for your input on that. Those were the regularly scheduled questions that we had for tonight's session. However, I would like to introduce everybody to our Journal Product Manager, Katie Schroeder. Katie is kind of the face behind NABUR, and she is going to pop on here and say hello.
Hi. So I have a few questions from our NABUR members that we collected leading up to this public forum. So I just am going to put these out here, and some of them are related to the workforce shortage and just some comments we collected on NABUR regarding the workforce shortage locally. We had a member, Joanne Hansen, say that one of the areas she's interested in learning about is the percent of people who support their adult over 18 children. She said, I did a quick check on the internet, and there are tons of articles, Forbes, AARP, Merrill Lynch, Mass Mutual, NBC News, NerdWallet, Washington Post, etc., that state anywhere from 56% to 80% of people support their adult children by paying rent, car payments, health insurance, groceries, cell phones, etc. One article said that people are using 37% of their disposable income on their adult children and foregoing funding their own retirements to do so. Just wondering if this has anything to do with the workforce shortage. Are people not taking jobs because they don't have to? Their parents are supporting them? I'm just curious if, like, NeTia, Lisa, Greg, if any of you would like to weigh in on this. Any suggestions as to whether or not this is an issue impacting the workforce shortage? NeTia, do you want to go first, maybe?
Yeah, so I guess I've not seen any data on this, so I cannot answer, I guess other than anecdotally. I guess I don't know that. I really can't speak to that in terms of where we're at in our community, or globally, really. But as I guess I alluded to before, we are in the midst of a cultural shift, and maybe this is a generational issue. But again, that is something I think that needs to be addressed on a more, parental, personal level. If parents are willing to support their children for that long, I don't know what we do, I guess, to change that. But I don't have that data in front of me, so I really can't speak to that.
I guess if anything, it will keep it'll keep the parents in the workforce longer, right? If they're having to support their children, they're not going to retire. So, I'm a silver lining kind of gal. So something's working.
Right. And I would say too, like Lisa and I both have children that recently graduated, and I know that both of them are incredibly hard workers. So I wouldn't say that it's a generational issue across the board, because my kids started working at 14 as soon as they could. They wanted to go wash dishes at the Viking, So I don't know that can be. I don't know. I just don't think that that's true across the board.
Okay.
I would agree with you, NeTia, and I think from just the standpoint of where we are in West Central Minnesota, that we've got we're known for having a hard work ethic, and I think kids do get out and work, and they work hard too. I mean, you see them working, like you said, at the restaurants. I know my son, he's 19, and he picked up a great pandemic job bagging groceries at Service Food as soon as the pandemic hit, and he's been loving it, and they're working around his college schedule, and he still likes to make money, even though we said we'll pay for your gas to go to school. Like, you drive to school, we'll pay for your gas, you don't have to work. He's like, nope, I want more hours, I want to keep working. I'm like, all right. So I'm kind of hoping the reverse is true. Like, maybe he'll be supporting me down the road. So.
That would be great. I agree. Greg, do you have any suggestions?
Well, I think the bank of mom and dad, or the bank of mom or dad, has always existed. It's a new concept and a new, I guess, argument or factor that I had not considered or have seen in the data. The Federal Reserve has been doing some surveying on workforce and what's holding people back from the workforce, and that was not ever mentioned as kind of being able to rely on your parents. But so yeah, I think enough has been said on it. I don't know. I have no further information on that one.
Well, thank you all for responding to that. I appreciate it. We also had another comment from someone on the stream wondering about the workforce crisis specifically related to childcare. Mary Bethel Olson, one of our reporters here, commented saying that, quote, there has been a huge workforce crisis in childcare. Parents can either barely afford childcare or there aren't many opening in childcare centers. Additionally, childcare centers are having trouble hiring and retaining workers due to many factors, wages being a big factor. Childcare directly affects the workforce, parents' ability to work, and economic development in Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County. Is there anything going on to help solve this problem? Are there any businesses working in partnership with childcare centers to help solve this problem?
Yeah,
NeTia, do you have
I
any
could take
thoughts on
that
that?
off. Sure. So, yeah, I mean, childcare has, I think, always been an issue too. That is not new, but certainly has been exacerbated by the pandemic. We know that a study was conducted in July or August of 2020, and there were about 399 childcare slots that were needed in our community alone. We don't have updated data on that, but we're waiting for it. The city is actually taking the lead on that. Clara Beck, the community development manager, is working with many different resources on this particular issue. She's coordinating with several local employers in both healthcare and manufacturing to potentially form a partnership. And we are working with childcare providers that would be interested in coming into our community as well, so that they could all partner together. Essentially, 399 slots. That's a lot of childcare that would be needed. That's not something we're going to solve overnight. But I definitely agree that the lack of childcare is certainly a contributing factor to our workforce shortage. And it is something that we're aware of and working towards. But again, there are a lot of state restrictions, different models that you go off of. So I know that West Central actually has a staff that works diligently in advocating with the legislators to try to relax some of those restrictions, just make it easier for childcare centers to, hire and maintain and pay their staff what they're deserved. And maybe Greg can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, thanks, NeTia. So I'm glad that the childcare comment came up because we didn't talk about it enough as a barrier. We mentioned it quite a bit, but we didn't talk about it enough as a true barrier. Childcare defies common economic principle of supply and demand. Like, look at all this demand, 399 slots. I should just open up a childcare center and I'll be rolling in the dough. Doesn't work that way. You can't charge the parents. You can't charge them too much, or otherwise they can't afford to send their kids to childcare, and you can't therefore pay your employees and providers enough to keep them around. So we have this constant turnover of providers and in the center-based model of the childcare, the workforce. So solutions is going to have to be, as NeTia mentioned, partnerships, business and school districts and providers and the workforce working together, nonprofits. Also kind of creating pathways to certification, quicker turnaround to get these people who want to work in the childcare workforce certified in a quicker means that's more convenient and conducive to doing that on their own time. And also at the legislative level with both state and federal funding, tax incentives, tax rebates, finding economic solutions through the state and federal level of the legislature is going to work towards that too.
Thank you, Greg. Lisa, do you have anything to add?
I would concur with exactly what NeTia and Greg said, is that it is a huge barrier. We've surveyed our members over the years, and a lot of times people simply aren't applying for positions because there's either not childcare available or it's not affordable. And like Greg said, the model doesn't work. You know, if childcare providers were able to pay a better wage, the amount that they'd have to charge the families wouldn't work, and then the families stay home. So it's this circle that just keeps going around and around, and it's going to take, you know, like has been said, public and private partnerships and legislative work to make it more feasible and to make the business model work for those childcare providers. They're providing a needed, not only just a service, but that educational piece for those earliest and those youngest. They're learning at that age, whether they're, you know, infants or they're 2 or 3 years old, they're learning skills that they're going to use for the rest of their lives, you know, whether it's socialization or colors or the different things. So I mean, we really are going to need to see some reform in that area to make it work. And once we can achieve that, I think workforce will start to work its way, climb back up, where there'll be more people in the workforce because they can. Again, a lot of people are making those decisions, and the pandemic just pushed it a little harder, where people were staying home with their kids, and then they figured out, okay, financially, I guess I can do this, or we as a family, we can do this on one income. And that the last 18 months have pushed people into those either decisions, you know, that have made positive results for their family. But childcare is definitely a huge issue that we're all going to need to continue to work together on. I think what's great about this is we've got some of the best collaborators in the region right here, you know, with the Daily Journal, with Greater Fergus Falls, West Central Initiative. Again, the city of Fergus Falls has been working on childcare. Ottertail County has been working on childcare. It's just a little bit at a time. We can add more spots into those 399 requests for childcare. We'd be doing a lot better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm just going to hand it back over to Heather.
Thanks, Katie. That wraps up our town hall meeting for today. I would like to thank all of our panelists, Lisa from the Chamber of Commerce, NeTia from Greater Fergus Falls, and Greg from West Central Initiative. We really appreciate all your expertise and input that you had for us to put into our conversation today. We encourage everyone who is tuned in or who will be tuning in to watch the recording after the fact to join us on NABUR for continuing the discussion. We will continue to field your questions there, and we will keep moving forward to make our community the best place that it can possibly be. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.